What's going on, guys? This is Juan with Greener Grounds Lawn Service, and today I'm going to be talking about the top 5 things that you need in order to start a lawn care company in 2024. Little bit of backstory: I've been in business for 1 year, so I'm still relatively new to this, and I'm still learning a lot of things. But in this last year, I will tell you what are the 5 things that I implemented, or the 5 things that I did that have made me I want to say relatively successful and has kept me in business for a year. So the number one thing that you want to do is see what the demand is out there. Research competition, look at the reviews, see what weaknesses your competition has. That way you know kind of how you're going to market your company as the difference maker, how you stack up against the competition in your area, depending on the radius of service that you're willing to offer, and how your strengths are going to prove to kind of mitigate the weaknesses that your competition has. So researching what your competition is and seeing what their services are that they're offering, to kind of help you understand what isn't working out there and how your company can make the difference by bridging the gap. Number 2 is, once you've established how you want to market your business, by demonstrating that your strengths are your competition's weaknesses, is essentially thinking of a clever name. Now, whether you want to do this for the rest of your life, or you just want to do this as a business and perhaps sell it off in the future, sell your route, and maybe move on to something else, you may want to think of a name that's going to be generic enough that it'll be marketable. For example, my name is Juan, and if I were to just name my business Juan's Lawn Care Service, down the line, if I wanted to sell the business with its client base and maybe just the brand of the business, Juan's Lawn Care Service may not be that marketable versus what my company name is, Greener Grounds Lawn Service. That's a name that still lets you know what the business is all about, but you're essentially buying the name and the brand of the business. You're not buying into, like a personal name like Juan. It's a more generic yet kind of industry specific to what the business is. So thinking of a good name and immediately registering it. If you're in Florida like I am, you check sunbiz.org, and that way you can see what businesses are registered under your state, and seeing what's available out there so that you can create an LLC or sole proprietorship, whatever route you decide to take. I personally created an LLC. That way my personal assets are protected from anything and everything related to the company, and the company is its own entity. So registering the business name. The next thing that I would say is not necessarily a necessity, but a huge step up in, how would you say this, in reputability, I guess. Or essentially what I'm trying to say is, if you have a website, it makes you seem a lot more trustworthy. It makes you seem like you have a much more established company than you might originally have. When I created my website, I had 2 customers, but I knew that down the line, if I wanted to have an online presence, and I wanted people to find me through my website or through Google, I needed to have a website. So essentially what I did was go to GoDaddy.com. I created a domain name with my business name, greenergroundslawnservice.com. And essentially I just started putting all my services up there. It took me like 2 to 3 days to design the website, put everything that I wanted in there. I've never created a website before in my life, so I worked at it for 3 days, probably 2 hours at a time. And I got it to a point where, I was pretty content with it. And then I was kind of updating, adding pictures every week, give or take, to keep the content fresh. And I got to tell you, from Google and directly from my website, I've received quite a bit of leads. I've gotten pretty big jobs that have landed from people contacting me through the website. And had I not had that online presence, they probably would not have found me. So yeah, just kind of create that website, go to GoDaddy.com. This is not a sponsored video, and create your website through there. It's super easy, super simple. They have great templates for you to be able to create it if it's your first website ever created. The next thing is try to research what your competition is charging for services. You're gonna see a lot of videos out here on YouTube that kind of gives you what works for them, what kind of mathematical equation they use to price out properties. But I would say that you kind of have to just see what your local competition is doing, because somebody that's mowing lawns out in North Carolina, they're typically dealing with much bigger lot sizes. So it's probably quarter acre and higher that they're pricing. And they probably have riding mowers. If you're just starting out, you could be using a push mower. So your rate is going to greatly differ based on location and the services that you're offering. So if you're just talking about regular mowing, in my area, I would say the drop bottom lowest is about $35. I'm in South Florida, by the way. So the smallest yard, if it's 50 square feet, 45, if it's 50 square feet, if it's 150 square feet, it's $35. You gotta have a minimum that you're willing to go to a property to cut for. You can't just show up to a property and be like, oh yeah, I can do this for $15 because it's gonna take me 20 minutes or it's gonna take me 15 minutes. You gotta consider the time that it takes for you to get to the property and onto your next property or back home if you're just starting and you're doing one client. So take all of that into consideration when you're thinking of what your lowest, what your minimum is going to be. I'll tell you that I started properties that should have been like $55 a cut at like $35 when I first started, because I kind of just wanted to land customers. I wanted to bring in volume, and with time I came to realize that I'm wasting so much time at these properties, probably an hour and 15, charging $35. It just didn't become sustainable. So I either had to tell them like, hey, I'm condensing my route to try to land the customers that I wanted to land for the price that I wanted. And it's never a good thing to go back to a customer a couple of months down the line and say like, hey, so I've been mowing your lawn for a couple of months, and the work is taking over an hour, so I have to bump up the rate, and instead of $35 I'm going to be charging you $45 or $50, whatever you want to make on an hourly rate. You got to kind of figure that out, how much you need to make per hour, how much you need to make per day, so that you can make a living off of this, if that's what you're aiming for. If this is just a side hustle, you still want to have that number in mind. That way you have a goal that way you have a goal that you're aiming towards. And the fifth thing to get started in the lawn care business is going to be regarding equipment. I started off buying equipment from Facebook Marketplace. Since I kind of just started it as a side hustle to test out the waters and see how it was going to do for what I had envisioned, I think I bought a leaf blower for like $20, $25, and these were all corded electric machines. So I had to be plugged into an outlet at all times, which made the job more difficult, I will say, because I had an extension cord that ran 100 feet. So I had some mobility, but then it got to a certain point where I would have to go in and plug it to go plug into a different outlet in order for me to cover the rest of the property. So yeah, if this is just like a test for you to see if it's a business you want to get into at a low startup cost, start off with secondhand machines. If you have the money for it, you can get better secondhand machines that are wireless, whether you want to go gasoline powered or battery powered. That's completely up to you. I currently use all battery powered devices or machines, and I gotta say my customers love it. Whenever I come mow the lawns, I have sometimes neighbors that are just watching and they're like, wow, I can't believe that thing is so quiet. I could hardly tell that over the sound of my AC. And just because it's so quiet, sometimes I can start at properties much earlier than some of my competition could, and I can get through my route a lot quicker. So if you have the money to invest in equipment, if you have a couple $1,000s, you can get started with really good equipment and be on your way. I wouldn't drop that much money if this is just a test for you, if you want to see if this is something you want to get into, because once you start mowing lawns, you're going to start getting requests for mulching, for resodding, for doing landscaping. And I'm not going to lie, it is hard work, it is exhaustive work, but if you have the mindset that you want to make a business out of it and you want to be your own boss, you will make it work. And if you can have a leg up and get good equipment from the get-go, why not? It's only going to set you up for being able to take on bigger, better clients faster. I had to start off really slow. I started this as a part-time. We'll get into that later if you guys want to hear the story. I started this part-time 1 year ago, and 10 months into the business, I made it my full-time job. This is all I do full-time now. And I gotta say, it's been a huge blessing. I get to spend more time with my family. I make the same amount of money that I was making in my 9-to-5 after 1 year, and it's just gonna go up from there. So anyway, those are the top 5 things that I would say you need to really kind of do or pay attention to get started in the lawn care business in 2024. Now, I'm sure that there's going to be a ton of videos out there on YouTube, older videos that they retarget new audiences by putting 2024 and stuff, but this is my true sincere 1 full year into the business, top 5 things that I've done or learned that I had to do with starting a lawn care business. And I'm going to throw an extra one out there, which honestly should be in the top 5. So let's make this a top 6. General liability insurance. You don't want to be the company that goes to mow a property or trim some bushes, trim some trees, and damages happen to the house you're working on. You want to be protected. You don't want money coming out of your pocket when you're trying to put money in it. So if you have an accident and you are not insured, it's going to be a big ticket coming out of your pocket. And then all the money that you've been saving up or making in lawn care, you don't want to be wasting that money in repairing a window or a door or a sliding door, you want to be insured. So yeah, that's a big must. I gotta say, I did go 2 months without being insured, and then I realized, I'm taking on bigger properties, so I want to be protected from, God forbid, anything that happens. So I went ahead and did that right away. Anyway, this was the top 5/6 important things that you want to consider when starting a business, a lawn care business in 2024. My name is Juan. This is Greener Grounds Lawn Service. Until next time.